Hi, welcome to my channel, Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, I'm Tash, and this is a podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing, and I also put out regular tutorials. So it's Sunday the 27th of July, and I'm recording from Sydney, Australia. My first segment will be Friend from the Vault, which is where I show you a knit that I made earlier. And today's Friend from the Vault is the Candlelit Shawl by Helen Stewart. And I knit this in 2014, so this shawl is over 10 years old. It's held up really well. It was a gift from my mum, and she's just lent it to me to show here on today's video. So I knit this out of Handmaiden's fine yarn sea silk in the colourway Salt Spray, and that is a 70% silk, 30% sea cell blend, and it's a fingering weight yarn, and I just used the one skein. So it's got a lovely drape, and I don't know if you can see there if the light's hitting it, but it has beads on it. So that is in the pattern itself, and the beads add a really lovely special touch, and they're not as hard as you might think actually. Now, where I first learned how to knit beads was a class called Knitting with Beads Made Easy on Craftsy with Laura Nelkin, and Craftsy is kindly sponsoring today's video. Laura is an excellent teacher. She guides you through selecting the right size and type of bead based on the weight of yarn you are using, and discusses tools that will help with bead placement. There are patterns provided within the class so that you can follow exactly along with Laura for your first bead project, and then after that you can take those skills that you've learned to other projects and add beads to any kind of garment or shawl of your choosing. I haven't knit anything with beads for quite a while, but just seeing Mum's shawl again, as well as some of the designs from Pope Vergara, I'm really inspired to start working with beads again, so I know I'll be going back to this class just to get a refresher. The class I'm currently watching on Craftsy is Rigid Heddle Weaving with Angela Tong, and I finally walked up my loom again, and it's been great to be able to go back to that class and get a refresher on how to do the hem stitch and some tips on keeping my edges neat. So I know I've already got my plans for the next class. Once I've finished this project, I plan to watch Rigid Heddle Weaving Beyond the Basics with Deborah Jarkow, just to extend my skills in this area. Craftsy offers classes on more than just weaving and knitting. Craftsy is an online community and resource where millions of crafters, makers and DIY enthusiasts find creative inspiration, advance their skills and learn new ones along the way. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 exciting classes in over 20 popular categories like crochet, knitting, painting, photography, cake decorating, woodworking, and more. Classes are broken down into easy-to-follow lessons and are led by friendly, award-winning instructors who share their creative wisdom as they provide step-by-step demonstration. And Craftsy is always creating new classes to keep you coming back for more and help you stay inspired. If you haven't checked out Craftsy before, now might be a great time to join. The first 1,000 people to use my link in the description below will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49, and that link is valid for new members only. Thank you so much, Craftsy, for sponsoring this video. I have 3 finished objects to share this week. The first one I'm wearing, this is CP05 V-neck by Christina Girolanda, who is Minimi Knit Designs, and I knit it out of Cardiff Cashmere Prime in the colourway Mose, which is this really lovely soft blue, and I held it double. There's 25 grams in a ball, 300 meters, so really good yardage, but my balls were just a little bit overweight. They were just over 26 grams, so I did manage to get this out of 4 balls because it weighs 104 grams. So yeah, like because the yardage is great, even though I was holding it double, I could get it out of 4 balls. This is the smallest size. But my gauge was off. So in this pattern, the stitch gauge is 16 stitches and I was getting 19 on a 5mm needle. But I didn't like the fabric going up a larger needle size, so I just decided to work with a tighter gauge and then just make it a little bit bigger. Now, I thought about casting on for a larger size, but pretty much the cast on is just gonna dictate the back neck width, and I had a feeling that actually just casting on for the smaller size would be fine. And then if I needed it to be bigger, because it's got raglan increases, I just did more, which I actually did. I think I did 2 more raglan increases until I got to a point where it was about, I think 33 inches. So this is just 1 inch of positive ease. And yeah, it's so lovely and soft and light. The pattern says so I used a 5mm for the body. The pattern says to use the same size for the ribbing, but the same size needle, but I felt like I wanted a slightly tighter ribbing, and she does say in the pattern that you can do that if you want. So I used a 4mm needle for the ribbing here, and also on the cuffs. Now it is quite an open gauge, like it's definitely see-through. I've got a camisole on underneath it, but I think that's kind of, you know, you have to wear something on underneath it, but I probably would anyway. It's more like a very lightweight throw-on sweater. Yeah, but I just think it's really lovely. So the fabric is still pretty open, but I felt like that the 5mm with holding it double was fine. But you're not gonna, like, the stitches are not perfectly even because it is quite a large needle for this kind of yarn, even held double. I've mentioned just details before. It was 18 inches from the underarm to the end of the sleeves, 12.5 inches from the underarm to the hem, and it weighs, yeah, I already said it weighs 104 grams. So yeah, really just lovely and soft, but it's warm but not hot. Like it's just, yeah, it's a really lovely, and because it only weighs about 100 grams, you could sort of roll it up and put it in a nice little bag and have it in your handbag just for if it gets a little bit cool in the evening. So anyway, it obviously has quite a deep V-neck, but you could wear it with a shawl or whatever if your neck was cold. But yeah, I think it's just like a lovely, elegant design. I really like the twisted rib, and I like sort of this design here at the center. Yep, anyway, that's my first finished object for the week. My second finished object is another lightweight, airy pullover, but very different in style and color. This is Jules Genser by Sandnes Garn, and I knitted out of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Elderflower, which is a silk mohair blend. And yeah, it's really lovely and airy and light. It also only weighs around 100 grams. So this is 99 grams. So I got it out of just under 4 balls of the soft silk mohair. I did knit the smallest size, and that has, I was pretty much on gauge, and this is 38 inches. So that's 6 inches of positive ease for me. I knit it on a 3mm needle, so yeah, much tighter gauge. And I also knit it single. So with the CP05, that was with the Cardiff Classic Cashmere, Cardiff Cashmere Prime held double. This is with the silk mohair held single on a 3mm needle. So it has a very different, it's still a reasonably open gauge, but obviously much smaller stitches. It has twisted rib for the cuffs and at the neckline. I followed this pattern exactly. I don't think I made a single modification. The only thing that I probably, as soon as I say that, I always say what I did differently. The only thing I actually had to do differently was I did a sewn bind off, because I tried a regular bind off in pattern. I could not get my hand through the cuff at all, like physically, not even like squish, try to get it through, couldn't get it through at all. So just with a number of stitches. So that's on a 2.5mm needle. Even though I did a bind off on a larger needle, like a 3mm, still couldn't get my hand through. So I had to unpick that and then did a sewn bind off. But that's definitely stretchy enough, but I can't pull it up past, I guess, my forearm there. So that's just something to be aware of. Now the pattern itself is, the other things I should say, it's got this just really lovely, lovely lace design. They're like sort of mock cables there. Yeah, it was a joy to knit. It was just lovely to see it come together. I absolutely love it in this really soft color. I've seen it in sort of very soft blues and purples and lavenders and pinks, which also look really nice. But yeah, I think the design, the very ethereal nature of it, it suits a light color. So the pattern itself is not easy to purchase. It comes in a Sandnes Garn booklet where you get all the patterns in the booklet when you purchase it, but you can't buy it individually, the pattern individually on Ravelry. You can't buy it individually online. You have to find an online supplier that sells the Sandnes Garn booklets, has this booklet in stock, and you'll need to purchase usually like a few balls. It doesn't have to be necessarily for this pattern, but enough balls. Each yarn store will have a particular requirement, but there'll have to be some kind of yarn purchased as well as the booklet as part of the conditions of selling the booklet. So just be aware of that. You won't be able to get it online, but it is a really lovely pattern. I'm super, super happy to have made it. And yeah, I think it's another really nice lightweight sweater to be able to sort of roll up and pop in your bag for, you know, if you're at the air conditioning in the movies, or it gets a bit chilly in the evening. I'm absolutely delighted, and I feel like I've finally got my yellow sweater. I was doing this as part of the Buddy Yellow Knit Along, but I ended up saving I didn't want to race to finish it because I saved the knitting of it to knit at Bendigo, just so I had some to knit the second sleeve. But now I'm so happy that I've finished it. I can see, like, it's actually feeling quite warm here, but I probably couldn't wear it super early in the morning. But silk mohair is quite warm, so yeah, I think it'll be quite versatile. I'll be interested to see where it fits in my wardrobe. Like at the moment, I've just popped it on over a really nice, like a white tiered skirt. I didn't make this, but it's a really lovely skirt, and I just think, yeah, wearing this over like over a camisole, it just feels a bit elegant and a bit elevated. But I could probably also wear it over, you know, nice, like maybe white jeans or yeah, something along those lines. Anyway, I'm really happy with it. I love it, and it's beautiful and soft and obviously very light. And yeah, I just think it's such a pretty design. My third finished object is the Ripple Camisole by Jessie Maed Designs, and I made this out of Skein Sisters Fabulous Sock in the colourway Just Beach. This is how much I had left from one skein. So this weighs 93 grams and I have about 11 grams left, so the ball must have been about 104 grams. In one skein there's 400 meters, so I'm guessing this took about 360 meters-ish, which means it should be able to be made, at least for me, out of pretty much most one skein of 4-ply yarn. And the only tricky thing is, because it's knit bottom up, you kind of have to guess how much you're going to need for the upper cups and the straps. I have made some notes on my Ravelry project page, and I'll link that below, but I'll just try and list some of the things that I do know. I made the size medium, and I actually used the Ripple Bralette pattern because I didn't really realize there was a camisole pattern. I should have realized, but anyway, I bought the Bralette. They're very similar patterns, but you just sort of, I just didn't do, I think there's like some extra kind of ribbing at the bottom for the bralette. I just didn't do that. I just went straight into a 3x3 rib. I looked at Stephanie from Edible Thoughts Makes. She's made 4 of these, and I looked at a lot of her notes around, which I find so helpful. I really appreciate when people put their notes and how much yarn they used and etc. Yeah, it just sort of helps me guesstimate then how much I need. Obviously I had plenty left over, but I was just, yeah, just a bit nervous. And it just gives you that little peace of mind going in. Oh yeah, they used about 5 grams for this or 3 grams for that. And if you're making, Stephanie made the size medium, that just, even though every yarn's a little bit different, it's not going to be so different that if she used 5 grams, I'll use 20, right? So yeah, so I'll stand up and show you. I'm just wearing it with some jean shorts at the moment, but I could see myself wearing it with like a button-up shirt. I wasn't sure I'd be able to show this on the podcast, to be honest. I thought it might be a bit revealing, but it sits, I'm wearing a strapless bra underneath. It sits really nicely. It's got this lovely twisted rib, I'll just show you the back, twisted rib detail at the back section, and then you split off here. The instructions are super clear. It was very easy pattern to follow, and even though I modified it by dropping off the bottom section, the rest of it is knit as the pattern instructs. Yeah, obviously just made longer. Now, for me, one thing, it just looks crazy, so it looks like a hat when you're making it, but obviously this 3x3 rib is incredibly stretchy. When I blocked it, I didn't try to sort of stretch it out. I thought, oh, just naturally stretch on my body. So this is just like blocked. This is blocked, but just sort of blocked normally. I was really stretching out these straps as I was making them to make sure that they were long enough. And I think they've worked out really well, actually. Like, I feel like that's holding up pretty well, but obviously I could always, you know, undo them and tighten it up a little bit if I need to, because it's just a 3-needle bind off at the back. And I've left a little bit of a tail at each end so that it would be easy for me to find to pick out if I needed to redo that. But at the moment, I mean, obviously I haven't really worn it, like I finished it just a day or two ago, and it's too cold to wear her at the moment. But I think, you know, I think it'd be nice wearing it with shorts or with an open, like button-up shirt opened over it. I feel like these shorts are kind of the wrong color for it. Like I reckon probably dark blue shorts would be, denim shorts or something like that would be better. Or I have some really nice dark blue dress sort of shorts. But it feels summery and beachy. I actually think my daughter Alex would probably like this one. Anyway, I'll have to ask her. But you know, in terms of the amount of knitting, this is 93 grams. This is less yarn and probably less time than a muscle bra hat, and certainly very easy, like 3x3 rib for almost all of it. And then it's just these little bits here when you have to pay a little bit of attention, but they don't take very long to do. Off the body, from here to the hem, actually I'll just pull it out so you can see, from here to here, off the body, that's 15.5 inches. On the body, it's 13.5 inches. So like when you pull it out, obviously it shrinks in length. So it definitely shrinks quite substantially. Let me think what else. Oh, I used a 2.5 millimeter needle instead of a 3 millimeter needle. I just felt like I wanted it, that was also going to give me more chance of actually wearing it by itself if it was just a little bit denser. And even like, I think 2.5 millimeter felt quite, yeah, pretty good actually, in terms of like, I don't think you can, like it doesn't seem see-through to me. I've got a bra on underneath it, like just a neutral bra, but I don't think you can see anything there. So yeah, super happy with it. Yeah, I feel like this could be, instead of, you know, how I've always got, or if you've been watching, I always sort of have a hat or socks or something simple on the needles. I can pretty much see myself always having, at least until I've made a bit of a stock, or especially if I think my daughter Alex might like one or more, I could see myself making this for her. Yeah, anyway, it's just like, I can't believe it's taken me so long to make one of these. It's been in my queue for forever, and I'm really happy I've made it. So yep, that's I don't think I have anything else to say except it's a great make. But I do think, I don't normally knit a size medium. There's an extra small, medium. I cast on for the medium. I guess I do have, like I went to some smaller needles. So, but this felt like the right cast on. I would not have wanted, like I feel like in terms of its fit and everything, this is the right size for me. So I'll just continue with that for future versions. Although if I make it for Alex, she goes to the gym and she's pretty strong, so she might need, that would be weird making a large for her, but I'll get her to try this on. If this fits well for her, I'll make mediums for her too, assuming she likes it. Anyway, that's it. They're my 3 finished objects for the week. Moving on to my works in progress. I have 3 new works in progress. One of them is a weaving project, one is crochet, and one is another knitting project. So I've already talked a little bit about the weaving project. That is another woven scarf using Wollmeise 100%. And it is in a colorway that I had tried to, I don't actually know the name, I've like lost the ball band years ago, but I tried to knit something out of it and it was pooling pretty badly. And so I thought, yeah, I just put it aside and thought, you know, when I warp up the loom again, that will be a good skein of yarn for weaving. So that yarn, Wollmeise 100%, comes in 150 gram balls or skeins, but they're usually a little bit heavy. So this one was 166 grams. And it's like over 500 meters, right? Because it's a fingering weight, but it's, you know, it's like a skein and a half. So it's actually really good one skein project on the loom. And I've been really good about making notes from my previous projects. So I have another scarf that I used Wollmeise 100% for. I have a couple actually, and I know what reed to use, like reed, heddle, I don't know, the thing that you put the slots through. Yeah, so anyway, I feel really ignorant not knowing all the names, so I'm really apologize to those people who like weave a lot, but you have a thing that has a certain number of dents per inch, and you use one with a larger number if you're using finer yarn. So I'm using the 12.5 DPI. I warped up 210 centimeters, and because my table is not 210 centimeters, I put a step ladder and attached the warping peg to the step ladder, so that I could then, like, because you're sort of restricted by the length of the table unless you can put something off the table. So I just used the step ladder and hooked up the peg to the step ladder so that I could get a longer warp. So I used 100 grams for the warp, 68 times 2 ends, so 68 up and back, and then, you know, one goes through the eye and one stays through the hole. So 68 times 2, and then I did hem stitching on the end, 2 stitches in and 2 rows. And I really like how that looks. I just really like hem stitching. I do think at some point I will branch out and do more weaving, but I'm just happy just to get back into just regular standard simple weaving at the moment, and it feels really good. You can, like, you burn through stash pretty quickly with weaving, because, you know, just up and back, up and back, up and back, and there's 100 grams of yarn already set up on the warp. Anyway, it's nice to have that on the loom, have the loom dressed again. So that's my first new work in progress. My second new work in progress is the Tropez sweater by Susanne Müller, and I am crocheting this out of Bendigo Woollen Mills cotton 4-ply in the colorway Italian Clay. And this is, I haven't done very much at the moment. I actually started this. This is the back. I'm crocheting the smallest size, which is 38 inches or 97 centimeters. So this is the back and the bottom. I haven't even measured it yet, but it feels okay. I had a swatch and my swatch seemed right. I started this and then I realized I was sort of trying to do something else at the same time, which is never a good idea. And then I realized I was completely off and had to start again. So this is my second attempt, but I did count. I have got, I think I crocheted 104 chains and I've got all the right numbers. I'm only on row 3 at the moment. It's pretty quick actually, and fun. So I'm using a 4mm hook, which is quite a large hook for this yarn, but it is what Susanne recommends in the pattern to give you like a bit of a more open, lightweight, airy, less stiff fabric. Because I stuffed up the first time, the second time I put because you have to sort of do this this granny cluster every 4 stitches, like every 4 chains. So I put, from where I had to start, I put one every 8 in the chain, so that I knew if I got off, I knew sort of straight away. And that was a little tedious, but it was definitely better for my peace of mind to at least get through to the end of the first row and then feel like, yes, I'm on track. So anyway, I'm only on row 3, and then it's a row 2 and 3 repeat over and over again, and it's mostly rectangles. So I think that's probably a really good first project for me, especially doing this is my first garment, my first crochet garment. So I think it's a good one to start with, because the back will just be a rectangle. Then I don't know, I probably do the front, which is mostly a rectangle, and then there'll be a bit of shaping around the neckline. And by that stage, I might be ready for whatever new learning comes in with that kind of like shaping in crochet. Kind of excited about that. Like I love learning. I love learning new things. So, but there's like a sweet spot where you don't want to overwhelm yourself with too much or get bored by doing the same thing. So this will have a bit of learning, but probably at a good time after I've sort of done the back, done the front up to a section, and be like, okay, right, now I need to switch on my brain again. I mean, I did have to, just to like pay attention to the pattern. There's all new notation that I'm not familiar with and everything. So yeah, anyway, it was really good, really fun. And I'm, at this stage, I know what I'm doing, which makes me feel good. So that's my second new work in progress. My third work in progress is another Oslo hat by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting this out of a yarn I haven't used before. It's Black Wattle Honeysuckle in the colorway Forgiven, and it is absolutely beautiful. Sort of grey and mauves, purples and blues. Yeah, really lovely and so soft. This is I bought this when I went down to Canberra to there's like an expo down there, a show down there, a yarn show, not the Bendigo sheep show, but there was an Australian yarn show, something like that in Canberra. I stopped at Black Wattle on the way back and I picked this up. And I was thinking about making socks, but I think it's too soft for socks. It's 70% alpaca, like I think there'll be a hole in them if I make socks out of it. So pretty quickly, 70% alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. So that doesn't really sound like sock yarn, does it? That sounds like something that you'd want next to your skin. I guess socks are next to your skin, but yeah, different area. Next to your neck or your forehead. So Oslo hat, I cast this on so that I would have something to knit on at the Bendigo sheep show that was portable and I didn't have to pay attention. So I've only just, so you know this, if you've seen this pattern before, it has a enclosed brim which you then fold up. So it ends up being like 3 layers of thickness. So I'm just on this, I'm on the first few rows after joining in the round, and then I'll turn and then go the other way. If you have the pattern, you know what I'm talking about. I'm knitting this on a 3.5mm needle. I cast on 112 stitches, which is pretty standard for me. I use a provisional cast on so that I don't have to, I just find it easier for, you know, I've done other ones actually where I have just picked up the stitches. It's not that big a deal, but I like with the provisional cast on. It's just, I've got all of the live stitches and I just knit them together to the ones that are on the needle. And I'll show you up nice and close. That pretty color, really lovely. And yeah, like I'm not in a rush for this, obviously. At the moment I have so many hats not enough heads. But it's nice to have like a very simple portable stockinette project. So yeah, they got a little bit of work on it at Bendigo. So that's my my last new work in progress, and then I have lots of progress on some of my other projects, so I'll grab them now. My next work in progress is not actually a pattern for purchase. It is one that I'm just making up as I go along to replicate the Rose Ophelia sweater, which is a commercial sweater. Very expensive. I've talked about it a little bit before. I'm just going to talk a little bit about it now in terms of my progress, but I'll put more details in a separate video just so that I can keep that in a separate playlist if people want to just follow along on that particular journey. So I will just mention the progress that I've made though, because I have made quite a bit. So I think last time I showed this off, I had one sleeve joined and I was very proud of my mattress stitch for joining that sleeve, and then I still had the other one to go. So I've joined that one, and I did a video of that, but I also want to do another of where you're joining the side of mattress stitch to a bound off end, so a side fabric to bound off. I did record like a little tutorial for that, but I think I'll put it together with another version with larger yarn and different colors so that it's a little easier to follow. I think sometimes like when you're first learning something, it's good to do it with much larger yarn and little swatches. And when I teach this, I get, because I teach a class on this at Skein Sisters at my local yarn store, sort of seaming, I get people to have swatches with larger yarn to bring it in, and we can, if we use a different color to sew it up, it just gives you an idea of where the needle's going. Obviously, when you do it in your final one, you're going to use the same yarn, but just when you're first learning something. So I will put out a tutorial on that, but I'll wait until I've actually got one to do with it with swatches and different colored yarn. But anyway, it's really good to be able to know, like mattress stitch is amazing. It's nice to be able to join, this is the side of a fabric to a bound off end, and have it look neat and, you know, consistent. The other thing that I've done, which you probably may notice, is I've actually done the neckband as well. Now this took quite a bit of finagling. I sort of picked up stitches. I picked up 92 stitches. I was happy with the number that I was picking up, but I started off by picking up and knitting and then purling around, and I just felt like the purls were a bit too predominant. So I decided to pick up and purl, and that looked a lot better. And the only thing that I would say, sorry, it's my dog walking around the house, he's a bit noisy. The only thing I would say is I didn't actually bind off these stitches at the center. I keep saying I'm going to talk about this more in this other video, but I'll just briefly mention this here. Instead of binding it off, I left them live, and because I left them live, they were actually purled rather than like a cast on edge or a bound off edge where you pick up and purl. So they are a little bit more pronounced than the rest, but I really like how it looks. I'll show you on the back. I like how the pick up and purl looks, where you just sort of have like a little bit of a line. Yeah, so I was really happy with that. So I picked up and purled 92 stitches, and then I did 10 rows of 1 by 1. And this is, I've been so slack. I haven't even talked about the yarn. The yarn's amazing. This is white gum wool. I'll show you, I've started the sleeve too. White gum wool in the natural color. This is the 10 ply, and I've got a whole cone of it. So I've got plenty of yarn. I've got a kilo here, well, here and here. Yeah, and it's just so, it's 100%, it's merino wool. It's a fabulous farm in Tasmania where the sheep are really looked after. It's really priority on sustainability and caring for the animals. So yeah, I'm really happy using this yarn, and it's beautiful and soft. So this, where was I going with that? Oh, I'm trying to remember where I'm at now. So many things I want to share about. Yes, so I did 10 rows of 1 by 1 rib. Then I did, oh, and I did do it inside out too. Yeah, I did that inside out because I wanted this to look, I think it looks a little bit nicer inside out. Then I turned, and the rest of it I worked right side out. I did 3 rows, that kind of, you know, that 3 rows where you do, like you knit one and you slip the pearls and you do that 3 rows. So it's sometimes called double knitting, but I don't see how that's double knitting. It's like you're you're knitting all the knits and slipping all the pearls, and the same stitches every time. You're knitting the knits, slip the pearls, three rows. Whereas double knitting, you kind of alternate. You knit the knits, slip the pearls, and then vice versa. Slip the knits, purl the pearls. Anyway, you don't do this here. I think it was the same in the Monday sweater. where you do 3 rows where you knit the knits, slip the purls, and it just, because those 3 rows, slipping those purls really condenses that, so it just then folds over. And then I did 10 more rows of knit, and you can see I've got some ends hanging. I have woven them in, but I've just, like, I don't cut them off super close so they don't poke through. And 10 more rows of 1x1 rib, and then I knit the live stitches with picking up where I'd, like the stitches that I'd picked up, so that they lined up exactly, so you don't have like leaning. And yep, so really happy with that neckline. The only thing that I wish I had done here, and I might just go in and like tidy up, like with an end of yarn, just sort of close up those holes a little bit, not holes, but you know, like sort of more open areas around these decreases. It's sort of more pronounced on one side than the other, but generally super happy, and really, really happy with that, that line there. Then I cast on for the sleeves. I was pretty happy with that. I knew I wanted 44 stitches. I felt comfortable with that. I stupidly, just not thinking, I just made these assumptions that it was going to be an increase every round when I started increasing. And like, here's a picture of what it was, because I actually got about 20 increases, and I was just like, okay, there's rapid and then there's ridiculous. So then I actually had another look at the pictures, and I sort of counted the rows and counted the increases and realized, no, they're increasing every other round. So because when I thought they were increasing every round, I thought I had to do like trying to stack a make one left on a make one left on a make one, you know, like make ones on every row, because I knew I wanted make ones for this line. I can't help myself. I was going to talk about this in another video, but I just can't help myself talking about it here. So anyway, whatever. See how you've got these really nice lines up the side? I thought doing them every row, like you sometimes do on those contiguous sleeves, I thought that might be a bit, which is kind of like, actually no, they're decreases. Anyway, I thought maybe that in the contiguous sleeves, that might be a bit hard and get a bit tight. So I started doing yarn over increases, where I'd sort of do a yarn over and then knit into the back of it, then do another yarn over, so that I had the extra slack. But on one side, you ended up with these really large, like a big gap, and it was really too open. So I know that if I ever want to do that, I had thought about doing that for contiguous before, to like on the Eva cardigan, to prevent the tighter gauge. But I know that one side looks fine and the other side really doesn't look fine. So I know, just filing that away for later, I wouldn't use that. Sorry if you haven't, if I talked about this a little bit in the Eva cardigan, how my when I do contiguous sort of increases on top of increases every row, my gauge is a bit tighter. And people talked about, well, do yarn overs and whatever to sort of like give yourself the extra slack. But I know that I don't like how that looks, at least on one side. So just filing that away for later. But anyway, then I realized I don't need to increase every row. I only need to increase every second row, which means make ones are totally fine, because I'm not doing one every single round. So, and the other thing that I did do, I'll just show you, they're across 6 stitches. I had initially done make one. What I normally do is, like on a, let's say raglan increases, I'll do like a make one left and right, where they kind of frame the increase. But to get that really nice line, you actually want to do it in reverse. You want to do the make one right. So knit 3, make one right, knit till 3 stitches from the end, make one left, so that they look like that. So instead of like that, they look like that. Because, you know, like make one left looks like that, make one right looks like that. If they go that way, then you get what looks closer to the pattern of those really nice vertical lines up the side. It's been so fun doing this. Anyway, I've got increased from 40 stitches. I think I did 5 rows, and then I've increased up to 90. Now with my gauge of 19 stitches and 26 rows over 4 inches or 10 centimeters, that is 90 stitches is 19 inches. I don't know what that is in centimeters, times by 2.54, and you'll find out. 19 inches, this is 22. This is 22. So on my body, this is 44 inches in circumference. I've got 12 inches of positive ease here. And at the moment, this is sitting at 22 inches in circumference. So I have to decide, do I want, this looks pretty big. I've actually been, I mean, obviously the whole thing's big, right? But I've been thinking about maybe these sleeves are just a little bit too big and maybe I'll close that up. Now I did cast on one stitch extra when I split for the front and back, so that that's like my seaming stitch. So I can definitely, I can close that up a little bit if I want and make it 19. So, you know, just sort of close up 1.5 inches so that that's 19 inches around, and just say 90 stitches is enough, because at this point I just go straight up and bind off, and then I'll be seaming that in. I'll just show you. This is, I'm happy with the size of this because I think that will sort of sit, I want it to sort of sit down at my thumb, and then that's kind of where the increases would stop, and then I'll just knit straight and then seam it in. But I think look how big that, 90, I mean obviously the whole thing's big, I don't think there's any danger that this is going to be looking tight or condensed. So I'm thinking 90 might be enough. Maybe I'll go up to 94. 94 would make it, 94 stitches would make it about 20 inches, and then I'll close up about 1 inch. I don't know, probably doesn't matter, but I like to be, it probably doesn't matter, but I'll overthink this. I'm trying not to overthink it. You can tell me, do you think 90, 94, another inch, another 2.54 centimeters ish, because I'm getting 4.5 stitches per inch. I don't know, I think that's plenty big enough. So yeah, I'm so excited. So I've got to do, obviously a lot more knitting there because I do want it sort of coming down here, but that's now just going to be round and round and round. And because that is so large, I just put this onto a large, because once I got up to about here, I was able to do it on a 40 centimeter, 16-inch circular, but I just put it on this so I could show you. Anyway, the way that goes actually is that runs up the inside. So I don't know if I had it on the wrong way before, but that goes up the inside, and yeah. Anyway, I've talked about this for a long time and more than I was going to. 12 minutes, gosh. Yeah, that's a bit crazy. I was not going to talk about it for that long, but I am pretty excited about this, and I am very happy with how it's coming along. And yeah, obviously for me, once I've done one sleeve, then I'm home and hosed for the rest of it. So I still have lots of yarn. This sweater by itself weighs 425 grams, and I reckon the sleeves will probably take a bit over 100 grams. So I definitely have plenty because I've got about 500 grams here. So because I've made some swatches and stuff. Anyway, these needles keep clanking, sorry about that. Yes, anyway, that's enough on this. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. And it's put a lot of time into it, but I think this is going to be even nicer than the commercial one because it's, yeah, I've made it, so I'm happy about it. Anyway, that's enough on that. My next work in progress is another sweater. This is sweater number 67 by Astrid Troland, sort of, because I'm making quite a few modifications. This is part of a kit that was sent to me by UNRAVELLED, and the yarn is, this is Indicita brushed alpaca 14 ply, the pink, just for this little trim here, which will also be on the cuffs eventually. You could put it on the bottom, but I think I'm just going to put it on the cuffs, and I think I'll keep the rest of it. This is the grey is Unravelled Uno, which is a 60% alpaca, 30% merino, 10% polyamide blend. And yeah, it's coming on really well. I'm changing a lot because I didn't really want the garter. There's a lot of, in the pattern, there's a lot of garter across the chest and then down the sleeves. And I decided just to skip that and just make it stockinette. And because it's just knitting in the round with raglan increases top down, I can kind of do that. I can just sort of use my gauge, and my gauge was also different to the pattern. So the pattern on Ravelry has a 15 stitch gauge. With the kit, they use the same pattern, but the gauge with this different yarn is meant to be 17 stitches. I'm actually getting 18 stitches on a much larger needle. I'm getting 18 stitches over 4 inches on a 6mm needle. And I didn't want to go up any bigger than that, so I just accepted my gauge of 18 stitches. Now, and then I could just modify it for the size that I wanted. And so I cast on for the smallest size, whatever that is in the pattern. And I just knew that cast on number would be quite good because particularly with the cast on that I use, Judy's Magic Cast On, for a tubular 2x2 cast on. That's it's stretchy, but it's kind of firm enough that it will sit at a nice place around my neck, because this is going to be quite a warm sweater and I didn't want the neckline down around here. Then at that point, so I used a 5mm needle for the ribbing, and then I switched to a 6mm needle. At that point, I just increased along the raglan every second round like normal. It's not it's not a modified or compound raglan, just pretty much straight down. And then I just kept trying it on until the arm side was long enough. And I also knew, in terms of, this is like a little bit of a sort of mini tutorial on gauge and stuff, and like if you're modifying things, I knew I wanted this sweater to be about 5 inches of positive ease, which is 37 inches, which is what it is at the moment, right? So my bust is 32 inches, which is 80 centimeters, and I knew I wanted about 5 inches, which is 12.5 centimeters of positive ease, right? So that's what I've got right now. So in my planning, I knew with a gauge of 18 stitches over 4 inches, which is 4.5 stitches per inch, I knew that if I wanted 37 inches, 37 times 4.5, 37 inches times 4.5, that is around 168 stitches. I think I got 166.5. So I just rounded up to a multiple of 4 so that I could have an even number on the front, even on the back. So 168 divided by 2 is 84. So I knew I would need to get to 84 stitches on the front and 84 on the back. Now that doesn't mean I need to increase until I get to 84, because you're going to usually cast on stitches under the arms. So I just kept increasing until I got to 80, and I tried it on, and it looked like the arm side was good, and it also looked like the sleeves were going to be big enough, not crazy big, but also not, sausage casings. So I got to 80, and I thought, well, that's a good time for me to stop, and I need a final stitch count of 84, so I'll just cast on 4 stitches under the arms, because 4 under both arm is 8, 4 for the front, 2 for the back. So whatever you cast on under one arm is going to be what it is for the front and the back. So if I cast on 4 for the arms, that gives me 84. And that's the right number. And that was it. So this is going to be a really nice, cozy, around the house sweater. I just, the reason I sort of got it on now is I finished a ball, and I thought, well, I'll put it on like a long cable. This is too big, these needles are too big to get the try it on tubing to stay on. So I've just got it on my 6mm needles just hanging off here now. And I have another pair of large 6mm needles. I'll do a sleeve and do the little pink at the cuff. And this is like on 6mm needles, like this is going pretty quickly. So I don't think it will take too long. So I'm going to do a sleeve, then I'll probably come back and finish the body, get it to the right length, and then finish the other sleeve, and that's it. Anyway, this, I'm really happy with how this is going. This was gifted to me by Unravelled. Unfortunately, this kit itself is not available on the website. Things sort of seem to come and go with Unravelled, might come back later, but certainly you could, they do sell the yarn itself, and you can purchase the pattern individually on Ravelry. So you could easily make this without buying the kit, especially if and they usually have a with needles, without needles option. But even though the kit's not available, the yarn is. I'm pretty sure this yarn, you can buy the yarn individually if you like it. And I'm not sure if they sell I think they do sell the contrast as well individually. So yeah, if you like it, you could purchase it separately, or wait, and it might come back eventually on their website. There are some, because I was having a look before recording, I was having a look to see if other things that I've made, or if this was back on the website, but it isn't at the moment, but the Essential Blanket Kit is. And it's not even pre-order anymore. I think you can actually just purchase it now. So if you like that one, that's up there now. And I was having a look at, because I just looked at all the kits, there's some really nice vest kits at the moment. There's one called Basica, and it just looks like a really nice, simple vest with that kind of nice shoulder detailing, that sort of, the European shoulder, that one, and the Aura vest. They both, I'm not in what caught my eye, but I thought I'd just mention that there because I saw those two and they both look really nice. Anyway, they have lots of different kits, sock kits, and I do have an affiliate link in the description below. If you click on that link and you use the code mostly-knitting10, you'll get 10% off, and I also get a small percentage of the purchase price. So that's one way that you can support the podcast if you like anything over there. Right, so that's my, I don't know what number I'm up to, work in progress. I think I'm up to 5 now. I've got a couple more to show. My next work in progress is a pair of socks, and I finished one sock. These are the Sportweight socks with a gusset heel by Wendy Johnson. That pattern is not available on Ravelry anymore, but it's a pretty basic recipe of with a fleagle heel. So I'll just show you sort of, I cast on 24 stitches for the toe, increase to 56. Then when I get to a certain point, you start increasing for the gusset, and then you do these short rows, and then away you go, and you're up there. I actually really like this method. It's pretty good where you don't actually have like big holes at the corners. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So, yep, these are for my mum. I've been trying them on her a few times, and it seems to be a good fit and a good length. So the first one's done, second one will obviously be the same as the other, and I've made quite a lot of progress on it actually. I'm working my way up the foot, so I just have to, I think I made a note of how many rows I did up the foot, so I'll do the same for this one, and hopefully we'll be able to give them to her soon. So that's not finished yet, but it won't, yeah, it won't be long. That much more to do, so yeah, not far to go now. Yeah, it's winter here, so and I know that as soon as I finish these, my mum will actually be able to wear them, so I want to crack on and hopefully finish them in the next day or two. My only other active work in progress is the Chrysler top by Pernille Larsen, and knitting that out of Knitting for Olive pure silk in the colorway Blood Orange on 2.5mm needles, which is 2 needle sizes smaller. Yeah, this is a long-term, this is going to be a very long-term project. I don't know if I've made much progress. I must put a needle, like a marker or something, to sort of see have I actually, so I can actually see progress. So yes, I might even do that when I finish recording, just so I can, if it's even worth showing next time. So anyway, that is still active. I just sort of do a little bit on it here and there whenever I get a minute. I have another pair of socks for me on the needles, but I'm just hibernating them because I want to make socks for my mum at the moment. So that's it for my works in progress. Moving on to my acquisitions and plans. After our trip to Bendigo, where I made quite a few yarn purchases, I don't think I'll be doing any yarn purchasing for a little bit, but I did purchase a pattern this week, and that's the Bendigo hat by Kath Martin, and she has the Mindful Melbourne Maker podcast, and I got to meet her in Bendigo. She's a really lovely, very warm person, and she has a lovely podcast, and she also designs patterns. And she has this Bendigo hat pattern, which is written for DK weight yarn, and I think I'm going to use this yarn that I got from Bendigo, which is from the wool store, and it is a DK weight. It's actually a sock yarn, but it just looks so happy. Now this hat pattern, it's mostly ribbed, and it has like a little cable, and it's got these like 3 garter stripes on it. So I could use like some colors, but I actually kind of feel like I might just make the hat, you know, I like really basic hats. So I think I might make the hat to the pattern, but instead of using contrast colors, I'll just use this yarn. And yeah, looking forward to making that. So when I get the Oslo hat off the needles, that will be my next plan, my next planned hat. I also plan to make another pair of socks for my mum, a few pairs actually, but the next one that I plan to make I want to get some made quickly out of sort of DK yarn. So I got this from Bendigo as well. That's also from the Australian wool store, and I've already wound it up. This is, I think it's called Letters from Gustav, this color here. So I have a sock pattern, which is also uses the gusset heel in DK weight yarn that I use when I teach socks at Skein Sisters. So I'll just be following that pattern and making myself, or my mum, some DK weight socks out of this. I wouldn't mind trying, I think maybe Andrea Mowry has some DK sock, like ribbed sock patterns, but I'm always nervous about running out of yarn if I've only got one skein. Toe up, I don't know, just feels a bit safer. So anyway, that, and especially if I'm not making it for me, but my mum does have small feet, so probably would be all right. But anyway, for this one, I think I'll just use that toe up with a gusset heel. And my last little plan is I did a swatch out of this yarn from Bendigo. Everything's yarn from Bendigo. Surprise, surprise. You know, when it's new in stash, it's kind of, you know, has the excitement factor. This is the Wollemi Paperbark. I bought the 12 ply in this, that Paperbark's the color. And this is 100% Corriedale wool. It's very nice and soft and squishy. So I did a swatch. It's quite nice when you get new yarn in, and even just swatching itself feels like, you know, a bit of fun. So just sort of imagining the possibilities. So I swatched this on the recommended needles, which is you see how it's got quite a bit of heathering there? This This is really pretty. It reminds me of the colorway Antique Lace in Madeleine Tosh, if anyone's used that yarn before. That's their Antique Lace colorway. It's a really lovely one. So this is on a 6mm and this is on a 5.5. The gauge is actually pretty similar, but this one definitely feels a bit denser, and I think I just like, look at, that's really nice stitch definition, isn't it? I think I like the stitches on the 5.5 a little bit more than the 6. So I'm thinking for this, the Archer Sweater by Lene. I talked about that, as in that's what I actually bought this for, and it always feels really good then when the yarn that, or the pattern that you buy yarn for actually seems to work, because sometimes that happens. You get yarn home and you know, you're like, yes, I'm gonna make this. And then you do your swatch or you try it out and it's like, oh, that's not gonna work. So I'm very happy to report that that plan is going to work. So as soon as I finish that sweater number 67, which is kind of a similar stitch sort of gauge, that one's 18. This one's a little bit bigger. This one's sort of getting like 16 stitches. So, but similar enough. I'll finish that one and then I'm going to knit this, the Archer Sweater, did I say by Lene? I think on the 5.5. And because it is top down, I'll be able to get, it's got these really lovely details. Like I really like the sort of saddle shoulder and the increases. Kind of reminds me of Ophelia, but increases going down. And actually, Ophelia doesn't have a saddle. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's going to be my next sweater on the needles after I've finished. I don't know if I'll maybe, certainly at least I'll wait until I finish sweater number 67. Ophelia is in its own kind of category because I'm doing sleeves and I've got to seam it in and stuff. So I may not always have the headspace to do that. But certainly I don't want to start this while I've still got sweater 67 on the needles. Anyway, that's it for my upcoming plans. Moving on to what has caught my eye. I have two patterns to share here. One is the Calm Night Cami by Lily Kate Makes, and that is a really lovely sort of summery sort of top with a V-neck and sleeveless, and it's knit on a 26 stitch gauge out of a fingering weight yarn. This looks really, really pretty with these lovely sort of, you can see the increases down the neckline. Yeah, so that's caught my eye. I think I would make that at some point. I'm not sure when, and I'd have to pick yarn, but it does look that like knitting for olive cotton merino, that kind of yarn would, I usually get around a 26 stitch gauge. That's really hard to say. 26 stitch gauge. Yeah, anyway, I like that one. So that's caught my eye. And the other one is the Palm, I don't know if you say Palmer or Palm Tea by Lene Samso, and that is on a 20 stitch gauge. I think I need a glass of water. Knitting that out of something like what the pattern is using, Sandnes Garn Lene, or you could use Tin Lene held double, or you could use Drops Bell, or you could probably do Knitting for Olive Pure Silk held double, or that would be a lot more expensive. But yeah, it's really pretty. It reminds me of the Peacock Tee. It's got this sort of more panels rather than more of a vertical look rather than the horizontal of the Peacock Tee. Anyway, they're the two patterns that have caught my eye. I'm going to go get a drink of water. Well, that's it for the knitting content of the episode. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to be back not next Thursday, but the Thursday after. And then we'll be sort of back onto my regular sort of recording schedule where I record sort of every 2 weeks, usually on a Thursday. Yeah, so I'm just going to move on to my personal stuff. If you're leaving me now, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'll be back in just under 2 weeks. Personal stuff, there's not too much to share. Like I've already we went to Bendigo, did a big video on that. It's school holidays finish today, so I'm back at school tomorrow. It's going to be a very busy term with leading up to trials for the year 12s, and my son is in year 12. He's my youngest. He has 92 days until his final exam. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty intense time. And he's doing a very high level of maths, and I'm a maths teacher, so I do spend a bit of time, you know, working with him when he needs help. And I also teach a lot of year 12, so it will be quite a busy time for me, writing trials and marking trials and all that sort of stuff. So yes, I've been talking a lot. It's probably time for me to go. So I think that's probably enough on my personal stuff. I'm not going to have much personal stuff like coming up. It's going to be pretty much just work and craft, I guess. Like not a lot else going on. Oh, I didn't get any sewing done these holidays. I had hoped to, but I feel pretty proud of myself for finally starting a crochet garment and also dressing my loom when it has been naked for the last 6 years. So yep, I finally got a project on the loom, which I'm really pleased about. And yeah, I think with sewing, I also didn't do any mending, and that makes me, I don't know about makes me sad, but I'm disappointed about that because I really do want to do the mending. But what I'm hoping to do with that is to make that more a regular part of my life rather than a big thing in the holidays. So actually scheduling some time where that is my mending time. And then hopefully that will be like a little regular segment here, which you can skip over if you're not into that, but you know, just a little bit on like what I'm making progress on a regular basis, where I sort of get things back into my wardrobe or into other people in my family's wardrobes if they've handed me their mending. Yeah, anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. I have no idea how long this has gone on, but hopefully not too long. Thanks for sticking with me if you're here to the end, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.